Hey, hello, and welcome to the show. It's me, JP. It's time for JP's product pick of the week, and I thank you for coming here, for stopping by and hanging out. First thing I'm going to do is check and see if this is... No, that's not the one. I unplugged a... Aha! Here it is. I was like, why is this HDMI thing not plugged in? Hey, it's back. All right, that's much nicer. So next thing is, so here we are, and I have, let's see, let me grab my, okay, we're all set up. I've got people over in our chats, if you're wondering where the chat is happening. Who am I talking to? Who am I looking at over here? Who's confusing me or delighting me? I got thrown there by Johnny Burdo, said, sorry, wrong account. I was like, uh-oh, am I sending from the wrong account? That has happened. No, in fact, our chats are the YouTube chat. Hello, Dave Odessa, Tackle the World. Anthony Becerra, Type 2, hello. And no, Type 2 says, JP product pick of the week seems to be whatever overstock Lady Ada is pushing. That is not true. There's no overstock. In fact, I don't think we have a ton of these. It's often new stuff, and what we do is we take a chunk of maybe 100 of them and we set them aside so that there's enough for people to get on discount. But it is not, we're not pushing junk on you. Sorry, Type 2, wrong. But the other chat we've got, so we've got YouTube, so thank you everyone for stopping by. I don't mean to be too harsh there, Type 2. The other chat we have is over on our Discord. So if you're in Twitch or somewhere else and you're wondering, hey, where's the chat happening? Check out our Discord. That's at adafruit.it/Discord. And you can look for the live broadcast chat channel. It looks like this right here. People hanging out there. Hello, C. Grover. Okay, you're on. Nice to see you. Johnny Bergdahl, Sam J4, Mouse, Toddbot. Hello. Jim Hendrickson. Thanks for the GIF here. I don't know what this is about, but yeah, that's right. Okay, you're on. Please return your tray tables to your upright and proper position. I don't know about all of that there. It doesn't seem appropriate. All right, everyone's throwing me for loops today. So I'll stop reading those and I'll focus instead on showing you the cool stuff that we've got here today. Before I show it to you, however, let me tell you, if you want to get a jump start, head on over to that URL right there, or that QR code. It's product ID 5753. And you can watch this show from inside of the chat. There's no coupon code necessary. There is a discount. It's 50% off. You can get that discount just simply by putting this item in your cart. You can get up to 10 of them. No reseller accounts allowed. Throw them in your cart and buy them before the end of the show, or just about pretty soon thereafter, because then the price will be reset back to the original price at the end of the show. So before I say any more, I will say this is a hot off the press item. This just came out. There aren't that many. And I don't think Lydia has done a full demo herself of it yet. Often she has in the new segment. So just to prepare you, this is going to be a very short new segment, and hopefully I can provide some details in my demo. But why don't we have Lady A to take it away?
Got this PC joystick to seesaw converter. So if you have one of these old school joysticks and you want to connect to I2C, you'll be able to do it with this breakout board that has an AT-Tiny that acts as a seesaw converter. So you can do the analog reads for the joystick and the buttons as well. It's also IRQ, and it's like fully assembled, and you just plug in your joysticks.
Did I say it was quick? It's quick. So that's the product pick of the week there, right there. It is the PC Joystick Seesaw Adapter with Stemma QT. This is an I2C adapter for plugging in the 15-pin D-sub connectors to what you would normally have as a DE15 port on a PC for a PC joystick. And instead, you'll be able to use all of the great info that's coming off your joystick in your microcontroller projects. So what we find on these typically, and it'll vary depending on the joystick you have. First of all, let me show you. Here was a very fortuitous find I got at a thrift store just a couple of months ago. It is this Radio Shack 4 Fire Buttons flight joystick. So this has X, Y, joystick action, and those are 2 potentiometers. And then it has 4 buttons on it that you can press, so we can read all of those. And then this one also has a throttle, little throttle control, and that you can also read on here. You can in fact read 2 sets of X, Y. So you could have rudder, throttle, and the joystick. That's not too uncommon in some of these setups. And all of that will be read by the little onboard seesaw chip and then spit out as nice, easy to read analog for the joysticks and button mask data for which buttons you're pressing. So let's take a look. Here is the page for this. So you can see here there's a nice Gravis joystick that Lady Ada had that she plugged into one. That looks like it's a 2-button, maybe 3-button. That might be a 3rd button there for the thumb on top there. It can vary. Nice connector on there. Happens to be called Confly. That's at least the current supplier of this D-Sub 15 connector we're using on here. And you can see this has a couple of STEMMA QT ports, so you can plug in STEMMA QT/quick connectors and then plug those into your microcontroller. And then we also have it broken out as some pins. If you want to use this on a breadboard or wire it more permanently, you can use those connections there. Here's a nice picture of it from the side. And here is your DB15 connection. I'll show you this in action in a second on this joystick that I got. And in fact, I don't think the guide is up. It is in moderation, so there should be a guide up pretty soon that has sample code, wiring diagram in it for you. One thing I'll point out is if you want to look this up, when I first got this, we didn't have the nice breakout, so I did a sort of a manual wiring job. You would need to reference one of these. This will show you what the pin out is of those 15 pins. So you can see here there's a number of pins that have +5 volts. So we have a 5-volt regulator on here, or a booster in case you're getting a little off of that from your USB or your power. So we give you the real 5-volt that these joysticks want. And then you can see there's button 1, joystick 1X, a couple of grounds, joystick 1Y, a button, another 5-volt, another 5-volt, button 3, then joystick 2X, a ground that's shared amongst a bunch of things, joystick 2Y, another button, and then another 5-volt. So figuring this out and plugging up the proper resistors is a little bit of an ordeal. So it's really nice that Lady Ada put together this kind of all-in-one, just takes care of the problem for you. Plug it into any microcontroller, or if you have an I2C to maybe you're using a Raspberry Pi, you could use this as well. As people have mentioned over in the chat, we did have these on Sound Blaster cards. At first, these were straight on the PC motherboard. Then these moved typically over to the Sound Blaster cards in the 90s, and now they've disappeared. We don't really have a port for these on most PCs, and you certainly didn't have an easy way to use them with microcontrollers, but now we do. So here is a demo I want to show you. Let me show you give you the lay of the land here. My camera angle is a little funny here, but you can see I've got my lovely joystick here. It has 3 buttons that are accessible with this thumb. There's also a trigger button right here that you can see. We have a hat switch, which actually just sends collections of buttons. That's not extra joystick or anything. We have a turbo button, which there's a little controller inside this particular joystick that will allow it to spam some of those buttons for you at a couple of different speeds, so turbo 1 and turbo 2 speeds. You can see I've got throttle, so this is another potentiometer down here, and there's an on-off for the throttle, and then there's an on-off for that hat so you don't bump it accidentally. So what you can see here in this little demo is there is the connector coming off my joystick. Right? There's that DB15 connector, or D-Sub 15 I should say connector, and then it's plugged into the board. And then I added a little OLED screen to this so we could do something neat with the joystick. So you can see here I've got my X and Y. I'm going to bump into this thing if I'm not careful. I've got my X and Y mapped to the position on screen of this little triangle that I'm drawing on this little OLED. If I press my thumb trigger, some of these different thumb buttons rather, I'm going to bring up some different shapes that are hidden on the screen. If I pull the trigger, I'm just changing the screen to all white there. You can see some tearing from the refresh rate there. And then when I have one of these held, I'm mapping my throttle to the X position of that little pill shape, the Y position of that little X, or that little box shape, and if I'm showing them both, you can see that happening. So we can do some cute little things here. Might be fun for doing a heads-up display of some kind, cosplay prop. This would be really great for driving a little pan tilt servo type of thing, a little laser pointer or something like that on a nice joystick. And these are cheap. I got this one for $7.99 at the thrift store. You'd probably do better on a yard sale or an estate sale, or you might go spend a little more on eBay to pick one up. If you don't want to have one already in your closet somewhere, if you don't throw stuff away, you may very well have one of these. So here's what this looks like in code. Let me open up code.py here. It's not just that bunch of numbers there, I promise. There we go. And let me get rid of that extra image there. So this is all on a seesaw chip. So right here, there's a little, let me look at my notes actually, because I can't remember what chip do we have on here. It's a little Atmel chip. Do we even say? Someone remind me if you've got, I don't have it written down here. So some little AT-Tiny, oh, it's an 816, yeah, the AT-Tiny 816. That has our seesaw firmware on there. So that means we're using these little GPIO pins on that tiny chip to read the 4 different potentiometers as voltage dividers through some resistors that are on board here. Interesting thing is that the original, at least on the sound cards, when those were used on a PC, they, I believe, had oscillators on them, so they were not reading, DACs were more expensive then, so they were not reading these as analog potentiometer reads. They were using this little oscillator to adjust the rate of oscillation with this resistance. So we've instead turned this into a more modern analog DAC type of thing, or ADC rather, analog to digital, I should say. So Seesaw is reading those 4 potentiometers there. It's also reading these 8 buttons. And so what I'm doing in code is I'm importing Seesaw right here. And then the rest of this is just about display stuff pretty much. Then we're setting up some variables to read the 4 buttons. Those are the pins that those are on for Seesaw. And the 4 potentiometers. Now, one of these, if I read it, it would just be noise, because I don't think there's a 4th potentiometer in here. So we really only need to read 3 of them. In this case, and in a lot of cases, the throttle tends to be on the Joy 2Y port. So that's the one I think I ended up using. Then we set up a little bit mask to read those 4 buttons. There's one message that just tells us which buttons are pressed, so it's a little faster than if they were sending that info out individually. And then the rest of this is just setting up the little shapes in display I/O. And then in my main read, what I can do is assign some values to analog read on Joy 1X, Joy 1Y, Joy 2Y, and I'm mapping those to X, Y, and Z. Z doesn't make too much sense, but it just is what I used. And then we're doing a little averaging, and so it says here, PC joysticks aren't true voltage dividers. Because we have a fixed 10K, we don't know the normalized value, so we're just going to give you the results for kiloohms for easier printing. If I toggle my terminal view in here, and let's go. By the way, I didn't mention, I've got just a little cutie pie, this little cutie pie RP2040, one of my little favorites, plugged in over I2C to the joystick adapter, and then that I2C goes and runs along to that OLED there. So if you watch here, as I change my throttle, that 3rd value is going from about 0 to about 11. And it's the same for all of these. So if you watch the middle value, that'll go from 0 to 11, and left and right, 0 to 11 there on screen. One of them is being a little noisy. I think it's this throttle. You watch, it'll get really noisy if I turn this off, I think. Now we have just like a floating ground for that voltage divider, so it'll kind of get noisy on you. And then the rest of this is just about remapping those values to positions on the screen to move things around. And then for reading buttons, we have this for for buttons not equals last buttons, in other words, something changed, based on a digital read bulk. So that just grabs the whole button mask to say which of these 4 is pressed, if any. And then if something has happened with them, I can do stuff like flash the background, turn shapes on and off, move the position of those shapes around. And so that is it. It's quite simple. Because it's Seesaw, you just have this nice, neat little bit of commands you can use in CircuitPython. You can also use this with Arduino. And let's see, does anyone have any questions? I'll run over to the Discord here and check out our YouTube. Let's see, yeah, 4 fire buttons, fancy. If you want to see something funny here, actually, let me turn back on this, how about this view right here. If you watch my terminal there, you can see button 0 pressed, button 1 pressed. I'm going to try not to move anything. When I turn the hat switch on, so there's a little button there that says, are we going to send stuff when the hat switch? The hat switch sends these little sort of packets. So is it showing up? Oh, I think I've done something so that it's not giving us the truth here. Yeah, my current code is kind of messing that up. When you move this hat switch, it actually sends 3 buttons or 4 buttons at a time, and different sort of collections of those could mean something to a game. So I think because they're pressed so quickly, a game could say, okay, if we suddenly see button 1, 3, and 4 with almost 0 delay between them, we'll call that a different input. So it was a way of getting around the 4-button limitation of the DB or the DE15. This little hat switch will send multiple buttons at once that are used by the game, which is kind of cool. The other thing is we've got a turbo switch on here. So I'll turn off the hat. Sorry, that didn't really work. Turn on turbo. So notice we get the red there. And now if I hold down the trigger button, it's just pulsing one of the effects that I have on there. We can set it to higher speed, and it actually, I think, is so fast that it's kind of confusing the thing for the refresh there. But we've got a couple speeds of turbo, and that's taken care of just by the controller itself. The flight stick in this case can spam a button for you. So let's see if anyone has any questions. I don't think so. All right, I think that's. Oh, Eric Laird says it was a 558 timer, typically in the sound card or PC port that was providing the oscillators. I guess it would need 4 oscillators to read the frequency of those, which would change based on the potentiometer resistance that you were moving the joystick or rudder or throttle. All right, so let's see. I think that's all I've got on it. There is my product pick of the week this week. It is the PC Joystick Seesaw Adapter I2C with STEMMA QT/quick connectors. For Adafruit Industries, I'm John Park. This has been JP's product pick of the week. And special announcement, pretty much the rest of the week's live streams are going to be on Friday, and that's because we have CircuitPython Day happening this Friday. So please check the blog, and you can probably check on the Discord. You will find we've got a whole slew of shows going that normally happen throughout the week, all packed into a CircuitPython-centric CircuitPython Day. I'll see you in the morning to kick things off, and then we'll have some panel discussions, some 3D Hangouts, some workshop show. My workshop show will be on Friday. We'll have Ask an Engineer. Can't remember, are we doing a show and tell? I'll have to check the blog post too. But please look into it because we've got a whole bunch of stuff packed in on Friday. All right, thanks everyone for stopping by. For Adafruit Industries, I'm John Park. I will see you on Friday. Bye-bye.